guys. Yes, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Oh, I need to get in here. So my name is Lisa. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and uh, so what that means for me is that I haven't used a drug or alcohol. I haven't gambled in almost 5 years. So, yeah, thank you. So I want to tell you about our wonderful program. We do amazing work, and this program's, um, you know, hopefully going to be a model for other states using peer support. I'm going to stick to my script because I'm so nervous. I don't want to mess anything up, and I need the clicker, right? Okay. 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 Yeah. So our objectives today, we're going to gain knowledge of problem gambling, associated risk, and its impact on individuals and society. We're going to learn about Virginia's collaborative multi-agency approach to treatment and recovery services through the Virginia Partnership of Gaming and Health, VPGH. I'm also going to give you an overview of the role and impact of certified peer recovery specialists. So VPGH has used a unique approach by integrating CPRSs into the process from the very beginning. I'm sure if you were here yesterday, you know what peer support is. So I'm gonna kind of assume you know what that is. Peer support is a person who has the lived experience with mental health, substance use, gambling, and then went on to get trained and certified by DBHDS and the Board of Counseling. And then we spend our days helping others find their path of recovery. So at VPGH, we are, CPRS are the first point of contact for individuals that are seeking help and we stay involved through the entire process. From intake to discharge and through regular follow-ups up to 1 year or even beyond if they need it. So using a person-first, trauma-informed, and strength-based approach, we help individuals set goals, recognize their strengths, and work through barriers to recovery. We collaborate with therapists, case managers, and other behavioral health professionals, and we bring a perspective rooted in lived experience to advocate for meaningful, effective, recovery-oriented services. What we hope that you take away from this presentation is an undeniable impact that CPRS have within the VPGH model, and how building relationships and walking alongside people in their recovery really does work. And slide 3, here we go. So we are a collaboration between DBHDS, VCPG, which is the Virginia Council for Problem Gambling, the Virginia Lottery, and VCU. VPGH was created to centralize treatment and peer recovery services for Virginia residents experiencing problem gambling. We develop and sustain a statewide network of licensed treatment providers and certified peer recovery specialists. So we work with a network of both clinicians and peer support specialists that are specifically trained in problem gambling. We provide reimbursement for a continuum of care. We increase access to and use of treatment and recovery supports. And we deliver continuing education and evidence-based training for behavioral health professionals. Our mission statement: to inspire hope, build support, and foster meaningful solutions for every Virginian seeking to overcome problem gambling. We're committed to promoting wellness and building strong communities where individuals can thrive in recovery. Slide 5, what is problem gambling? Problem gambling, also called gambling addiction, compulsive gambling, gambling disorder, is a pattern of gambling behavior that causes harm. It often disrupts personal relationships, work, financial stability, and mental health. Like substance use disorders, problem gambling can become an uncontrollable cycle without the proper support. And I just want to mention here too that we also provide support to families and loved ones of problem gamblers. So that brings us to another important question. How can someone really be addicted to something that isn't even a substance? Matt?
Make sure I don't go backwards with it. Good morning, everybody. And yes, that is a very good question. How can I be addicted to something that isn't a substance? And there we go. Yeah, and the truth is, addiction isn't just about what you put in your body or any other method of intake. Just like people get hooked on shopping, on food, doom scrolling on TikTok late at night, also guilty. Gambling in its many forms lights up the exact same reward system in the brain. I like to call it chasing the dopamine. At least that's how I view it, and based on my experiences. When it comes down to it, the craving for a quick win, the instant gratification. It's the same kind of fix I chased in addiction myself. I'm 5 years in long-term recovery myself. And a lot of it thanks to VCU, most of it thanks to VCU. But yeah, I chased that quick fix that gambling also provides. Very fast, gambling does. So no, you're not putting a chemical in your body, but your brain is reacting like you are. The thrill, the anticipation, they all press those same neurological buttons with addiction. And so the scope of problem gambling in the US. And so once you understand that how it affects the brain, just like other addictions, just like any substance would, the better the whole picture kind of starts to come into focus. I was blown away by how many people are silently struggling. Many folks talk about opioids and alcohol and fentanyl, how dangerous they are, which of course they are. But gambling is oftentimes called the secret addiction, the hidden addiction. Right now, over 2.5 million adults in the U.S. meet the criteria for severe gambling disorder. That's not, oops, I spent a little too much money at poker night with the fellas, or, I busted on a couple of lottery tickets. That's people losing their homes, their jobs, their peace of mind, in a lot of cases, their will to live. Problem gambling is associated with the highest suicide rate among all addictions, with approximately 1 in 3 problem gamblers who have seriously thought about suicide. More than 1 in 8 have attempted, and about 1 in 20 have completed suicide. And that's not just anecdotal, that's very real, very jarring evidence. It comes from a 2023 comprehensive meta-analysis by Brown and colleagues, where the researchers reviewed over 100 studies and nearly 5 million people. And we've met these folks, we've talked to these folks on a daily basis, and in a lot of cases we are those folks, the same folks. Because it's never just about gambling. Just like any addiction, it's never about the drug or the drink. There's always more underneath. So some of the common signs of problem gambling, what does it actually look like in somebody's daily life? Constantly thinking about gambling, needing bigger and riskier bets to feel anything, upping the risk, so to speak, hiding it from family, lying about where money's going. And one of the biggest ones, and this affected me the most too, was chasing losses. That mindset of, if I just win it back, I'll stop. Or if I can come back the next day and just break even, then I'll be good, I'll stop. But that moment never comes. It never came for me. And what we're really experiencing at that point is something called the gambler's fallacy, which is the belief that a win is due just because I've been gambling for a long time, or just because I've lost, X amount of whatever. But every spin, every hand, every bet is completely independent of the previous or the next one. The odds don't care how many times you've lost, and thinking otherwise just keeps you stuck in that cycle. Because the house always wins. That's not just anecdotal either. You keep digging, thinking you'll find daylight, and it doesn't come. And you might notice this of a loved one or a friend or maybe even yourself, things like missing work, skipping meals, avoiding phone calls. Not because any of us are bad people, but because addiction hijacks that reward center in the brain. And folks can even feel withdrawal symptoms like anxiety, insomnia, irritability, nausea when they try to stop. And this isn't about willpower. It's the brain chemistry, trauma, and survival strategies, coping mechanisms, self-soothing. And that's why peer support is so important, because we understand so deeply that we're not bad people trying to get good, we're sick people trying to get well. And that's why people with the lived experience, like peer support specialists, have the unique ability to meet folks where they're at and bring them back and offer a little bit deeper hope. I need to update it, if you can't tell. So what does that look like? How does the VPGH help folks feel confident and hopeful in early recovery? Well, I am glad that you asked. This is our treatment and recovery model. And this is where Virginia is really leading the charge, like Lisa mentioned. We're on the cutting edge of a much needed shift in how problem gambling is approached. And I'm personally super proud to be a part of it. Whether someone reaches out through the 1-800-GAMBLER helpline, or they self-refer from the website, or get linked up with us through social media, or gets referred by one of the clinicians in the network, they're immediately connected to a certified peer recovery specialist. Right off the bat, boom, someone with lived experience who gets it. And a quick show of hands, how many folks are familiar with harm reduction? That's a lot of hands, that's good. So that means that we meet people where they're at, not where we want them to be, not anywhere other than where they are in the moment. It's not that you have to quit gambling right now. Or we can't help you. It's what can we do today to reduce harm in your life, whether that's from gambling, drinking, anything else, because it's not just about gambling. Our intake process reflects that. We don't assume people are ready to quit cold turkey. That's sometimes unrealistic, and it's a lot of pressure to stop doing something that you've been using as a coping mechanism. Especially, in my case, it was very hard. I couldn't. It took me a couple times to get it right. But we talk about goals, fears, readiness, barriers. So I kind of see our role as like a liaison from active addiction to recovery. And if someone's just barely peeking in, we leave that door open to get back in touch with us as well. And so the model flows where a Virginia resident reaches out, whether that's a hotline, website, clinician, any entry point. They're connected to a CPRS, a peer. We complete an intake, talking through needs, goals, and their readiness to change. From there, we coordinate everything from treatment, recovery options, support services. Everyone is offered the screening no matter what their insurance status is. And we stay in touch with them. So if I were to take a referral, or any of my teammates, the CPRS who took the initial referral will follow up with that person regularly, like Lisa had also mentioned, at 1 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and a year. Because it's not just about quitting gambling, it's about getting your life back, and no one has to do that alone. So let's talk about some of the resources that are offered to support seekers, colleagues, and the communities. We don't just hand out a brochure and say good luck. We stick with the people and offer wraparound care. And there are some resources that are offered to support seekers, colleagues, and communities, like blocking software. Gamban is one of the blocking softwares that we offer, and getting folks connected to GAMFIN, which is a financial counseling organization for when folks, or, for me, when I couldn't bear to look at my credit card statement anymore, because financial support's a big part of it as well. We connect folks to counselors, support groups, treatment centers if need be, and more. And sometimes the most powerful thing we can offer is just a simple message like, I can think of one person in particular that, you know, I know when payday is. So to text somebody a message like, hey, it's payday. Do you want to chat before you get your paycheck, before it hits? You know, instead of spending it on day trading or crypto markets, because yeah, that counts as gambling as well. And that text can interrupt the whole cycle from tragically cascading out of control, because addiction is progressive. It always gets worse, never better. And that conversation, a simple text message, can save a paycheck, or it can potentially save a life. Because again, it's not just about gambling. It's about the loneliness, trauma, shame, trying to survive, and a lot of times survive in silence on top of that. And that's why peer support works, because we don't just treat the addiction, we empathize and address what's behind the addiction as well. We also offer, like was mentioned, presentations, trainings, outreach, all focused on problem gambling treatment and recovery, helping to spread awareness and helping to build stronger communities. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague. I'll let you click it.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Childress, and I am a certified peer support specialist and Region 3 coordinator at the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health. I have had the true honor and privilege of working with VPGH for 2 years, and I'm 8.5 years in recovery. So as Lisa and Matt so well demonstrated, what our treatment model looks like and the severity of problem gambling. Like most other treatment programs, the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health started as the identification of a problem and a need, and individuals who were willing to not only identify the need, but to support the efforts to find a solution for that need. Among those individuals was Jennifer Davis Walton, the director of the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health, and Carolyn Hawley, the president of the Virginia Council on Problem Gambling. After much determination, conversations throughout a couple years, and collaborations, in March 2022, state funding was granted for the treatment of problem gambling in Virginia. In August 2022, 2 trainings, 15 credit hour trainings, were launched for certified peer support specialists, one for certified peer support specialists and one for clinicians to help them treat problem gambling. In October of 2022, treatment services were launched with clinical services. In January of 2023, VPGH partnered with networked problem gambling trained certified peer support specialists who would provide one-on-one and group services for individuals struggling with problem gambling. That evidence, which we'll talk about in a minute, led to the hiring in June of 2023 of 2 full-time certified peer support specialists for Virginia Partnership Gaming and Health staff. That led to the hiring of 3 more full-time employees of certified peer support specialists, and we now have 5, and with 1 representing each of the 5 behavioral health regions in Virginia. So as I showed you in the previous slide, screening, brief intervention, and referral to treatment was launched with clinical services in October of 2022, and from October 22 to December of 2024, there were 1,129 referrals made to the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health. But let's walk through the transformation of this program. So when there was clinical treatment launched in October of 22, there was 15% of individuals who were engaged and referred for treatment. However, in January of 2023 with a networked peer support specialist providing those one-on-one services, walking alongside individuals and providing them that guidance with lived experience and education on problem gambling. That number more than doubled to 35% engagement. In June of 2023, 2 full-time peer support specialists were hired as staff, which now do the things that they mentioned in our treatment model, such as the intakes, the follow-ups, all of that. And that number grew to 45% engaged in treatment and recovery services. So where are we today? Today we have 52 to 56% engagement in treatment and recovery supports. That's pretty good numbers, right? Wait, I gotta go back and tell you this. So just one more thing. If you look, peer supports added more than tripled the engagement from clinical services to where we are today in less than 2 years. Tripled engagement. So here's data from 2024 for Virginia. This is from the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health and the Virginia Council on Problem Gambling Helpline. You can also stop by our table out here for more detailed sheets with our data. So this year we decided to pull information about where the calls were coming from in Virginia so that we could assess needs. What we found was that nearly 50% of our calls are coming from northern and central Virginia, with lower representation in smaller and more rural communities. Helpline calls have increased significantly. This year, in 2024, there were 15,841 calls made to the helpline in Virginia. That is nearly a 50% increase from 2023. That is 16 times as many as 2019. Of those calls, there were 1,002 intakes completed by the helpline, so the VCPG helpline. Not all calls end in an intake or a referral to VPGH services. We are working on that. Some individuals call and just want and accept resources such as GA meetings or self-exclusion information. An intake or referral for the Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health includes the referrals that we receive either from the helpline or other sources like Matt was talking about, like self-referral forms that we have online, who we as CPRS were able to reach, do the intake and assessment with, and connect with services. So of those, there was 562 new referrals at VPGH this year. 100% of those were referred for peer recovery services, 90% for clinician services, and 52% of those are receiving ongoing services for treatment and recovery. Our follow-up data, as they mentioned, the same certified peer support specialist who does the individual's intake is the person who they contact at these 1 week, 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and 1 year follow-ups. For clarification, the percentage reached is those who completed the intake, agreed to follow up, and who answered and responded to those questions. At 1 week follow-ups, we have reached 86% of the people that we did intakes with. And of those 86%, 94% report either decreased or no gambling. And as Matt pointed out, not everyone comes to us ready to quit gambling that day. Oftentimes, some want to learn how to gamble responsibly. Everyone's pathway is very unique, and they oftentimes come and want to learn to gamble responsibly and may make the choice, and we support them in that. And throughout that time, a lot of times, we see that they decide that they don't want to gamble anymore, and they choose to completely stop. You'll see similar results for our 1, 3, and 6 month follow-ups, but my favorite ones, my favorite calls are the 1 year follow-ups. We reach 68%, and we have 98% of those, 98% who say they are not gambling or they have significantly decreased gambling. 98%. I love making those phone calls because they have my number saved. They know who I am. And to hear them talk about how they're living their life a year later, typically free of gambling, but no matter, either way, healthy. And they've paid off their debts or or have made great progress in their plan to pay off that debt. They are more involved with their families, doing better at work. They're thriving without the control and compulsiveness of gambling in their lives. This is not, this isn't just data, guys. This is proof. This is proof that peer support specialists are not only essential for recovery navigation, but are instrumental in the increase for treatment uptake and system effectiveness. So now I'm gonna have Sean share a little bit more about our program and what certified peer support specialists do. Thank you.
Great job. Good job, Elizabeth. Awesome. All right, thanks. All right, so my name is Sean Fornia. I was not a responsible gambler by any means. So I tried for a long time. I am a person that lives with a gambling disorder, along with an alcohol use disorder and substance use disorder. I am in recovery. This illness nearly destroyed me, and it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And I'd like to extend my gratitude to VCU and to Tom in Research and Recovery for allowing us to present this data, because it's real. It's real. Problem gambling is affecting our communities. A person with a problem gambling, a loss of control, affects 7 to 10 people in their social circle. And so it becomes not only an individual problem, it becomes a family problem. And this problem I see, and I bear witness to it, affecting our families, and it's affecting our community, right? And so I'm grateful to be here. There's a lot of people in this room that continue to help support me and have mentored me and helped me grow along my path, and I thank you for that. So I'm grateful to be here. I don't know how I'm here. It's only by the grace of a loving God. All right, so let's get into the data some more. Let's see here. As you've seen here today, problem gambling is a growing challenge, right? But the Virginia Partnership for Gaming Health is proving that recovery is possible, right? As you've seen, our program model works because we meet people where they're at. We offer those safe spaces without judgment, with love and support. We have 107 licensed providers spanning the public and private sectors. And there's a robust peer network, as you heard from my team, of 15 certified peer specialists with 5 recovery organization or communities connected. And we have 5 VPGH dedicated staff members, again, 1 in each behavioral health region. Now we offer cutting edge trainings on problem gambling and responsible gambling, from prevention to raise awareness, that offer free CEUs. There's a 15-hour course to better understand problem gambling, along with ongoing learning and webinars for emerging issues. But what really sets us apart is our peer support specialist, right? That initially reaches the support seekers. We don't just connect people to resources. We walk alongside them on a path of healing. And that's awesome. And so let's go, team. Let's partner up. Together we can. And so, yeah, let's go to the next slide. Community outreach, right? As the impacts keep growing, just this year, we've done 139 strong outreach activities, from local events to national conferences. Each outreach event, every training is a chance to break stigma, right? Equip our partners with knowledge and power and information about problem gambling, right? Like our clinicians and our policymakers and our families on how to support people with problem gambling. And most importantly, just maybe, we'll reach someone who's sitting here or viewing us online suffering in silence. We're here for you. There is help available. The invitations keep coming because our communities see what we see. Problem gambling is on the rise, and recovery isn't just possible, it's happening. And I'm one of them. And I get to bear witness to it every day, as you saw on the stats up there. There is hope. So whether you're here today as a peer mentor, a peer specialist, a leader, a clinician, or someone who just cares, let's keep building this momentum together, because together we can. All right, so we have some ongoing research that's in progress, which is really, really powerful, right? Information is power, right? And there's always ongoing research with VPGH. Our researchers are seeking to better understand the role and experiences of peer support specialists and how we can better serve and help others, right? We have studies being done looking at the linkage between stimulant use and problem gambling. We were published in the Journal of Applied Rehabilitation Counseling. And ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to maybe take a picture of this slide and read this article, because it's extremely powerful. And it's titled, "When Addiction is Not a Disability, the Exclusion of Individuals with a Gambling Disorder as a Protected Class." And so this article was written by Dr. Carolyn Hawley, Dr. Amy Armstrong, Kathleen Marie, Jennifer Davis Walton, and Wyatt Rich. It is extremely powerful. So I encourage you guys to read it. And with our program, the data is constantly being used to evaluate and to better understand areas of need and program development. And we also, I encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter comes out once a month. We're not going to overwhelm you with too much information, but it shines the light about what's going on in Virginia and nationwide about the impacts of problem gambling that it's having in our communities. So check that out, okay? And then I lost the clicker. Okay, back. All right, some testimonials. And so these are pretty powerful, right? It's not about really us. We like to hear what other people are saying. And so we took a snapshot and we hear all this positive stuff on how we're impacting people, and I get to watch people recover from problem gambling, get their families back, get their finances back, get their homes back, get their jobs back, right? They learn, like me, how to stop lying, cheating, and stealing, and practice these recovery principles of honesty, hope, faith, and courage, right? And that healing takes place in the individual, and that has a ripple effect into the family unit, which has a ripple effect into our communities, right? And so here's some testimonials from some of our support seekers. One individual said, "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here today." I'm really excited to be on a journey to a new life. Someone else expressed, "Just knowing you are there makes such a difference." Someone else spoke, "You all gave me so many resources and support so quickly. It was very helpful. Now I have a completely better life without gambling. You answered the phone so late at night, helped me not pick up my phone and throw away my whole paycheck into a gambling site. I can add another day to not gambling." And the last one we chose was, "You have been so amazing. Your guidance, understanding, and acceptance have made such a difference in my life. I am so grateful for your dedication to reaching out to me and getting me support. I couldn't have done this without you." And so we know that people are in the community are struggling. We know recovery is possible, and we know that together we can. And we encourage you. There may be someone here today that may be struggling with gambling or a loss of control with gambling. I'm here to tell you from my personal experience and my professional experience, in more cases than not, it could possibly get worse. Take some action. We're here to help. There's an evidence-based program of recovery and resources available to you at no cost. All my gambling probably paid for it. That was a joke. I don't make that much money. But anyways, I want to take this time to invite you in and open up the floor, this safe space, non-judgmental space, for any questions you may have or that you would like to ask. Yes.
And while they're typing, you can go ahead and take your question out. Anybody have any questions? Yes, I will be Oprah today. I don't have the money, but.
Hello, good morning. I had a question. My question was, when someone calls in and is looking for help and you said they could do an intake right away, like how fast is that intake on the phone? How, you know what I mean? How, is that a lengthy intake? I'm just wondering, I'm just curious.
Okay, so when they call the helpline, that is a pretty quick process. And then if they accept the referral to us, VPGH services, we reach out within like 5 hours, and then over the span of 3 attempts over the next 48 to maybe a week, depending on we try to get a hold of them. But when we do, the intake process. So we do ask questions. However, I have had individuals who did not want to answer the questions of do you have a full-time job? So it really depends on the individual. The intake takes place in a conversational style. Some people 30 minutes, others an hour and a half. It depends on that individual and just what they want to share, how much they're suffering, what their needs are. So it really just depends on the individual. Is that an okay answer? Okay.
Great question.
Thank you. while we wait, there is an individual.
Yes. Oh, I'm on my way. Gotcha. Next person, you keep your hand up, I'll be right over.
Hello. I was wondering, what is clinical treatment look like for problem gambling? Is that like outpatient services, inpatient services? What all does that entail?
Absolutely. So clinical services are those licensed clinical social workers and counselors who have taken our training and onboarded with us as networked clinicians. It is a virtual environment. However, if there is a support seeker who really needs those in-person individual sessions, we will work with our clinicians that you've seen we are partnered with and do our very best to get that. In some cases, we have individuals who need inpatient treatment. We do whatever we can to get that for them, even though there's really not, problem gambling inpatient treatment facilities in Virginia. Hint, hint, if anyone wants to work on that initiative. But we find a way to get them what they need. Oh, for instance, one individual, he was a college student, and his parents initially called, and a lot of times that happens. So a loved one calls, and then we talk to them. They see, we make them feel comfortable. Let them know, hey, you can tell your son that you've spoken with somebody with lived experience who's not going to judge them, and this is a safe space. So these parents were very, very supportive of their son who was struggling with sports betting. And however, he had no substance use, no alcohol use, but severe problem gambling and no mental health issues. So I could not find him an inpatient treatment. However, when he was home from college during the summer, we worked very intentionally with clinical services, peer support services, group services, and with his parents. And he agreed to all of this, to hand his phone over, would only leave, he had to ask for permission. So we did like an inpatient in his home treatment. So we just covered him with those support services all together, and made that work in his home setting, because luckily he did have supportive parents, and we had the support staff to help with that.
And I would like to add to what Elizabeth said too, that really brings out the importance of having a good support system, because it affects everybody involved.
Could you tell us some more about harm reduction techniques, and is there any particular recovery pathway that works better than another?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, harm reduction towards responsible gambling looks like maybe setting time limits for gambling, right? Money limits to gamble, right? And adhering to some of those disciplines. Cool-off periods, right? Taking breaks. Yeah, leaving your credit cards or cash cards at home so you can't withdraw additional money. Because for me and many others, that dopamine, and once I get in the action, they call it the dark flow, when I'm zoned in and I don't know what else is going on but the bet, the spin, the scratch, the whistles, the bells, the card game, the horse race, I'm so locked in, I don't know what's going on around me, right? And so, yeah, it's harm reduction. So pulling back from those experiences, right? And taking those breaks, right? And so those are some of the things that harm reduction offers in responsible gambling, right? Is not betting more than you can afford to lose, and having the understanding that I couldn't get for a long time, the house always wins. It was designed the odds were against me, right? And I couldn't see that. I hope that helped answer the question.
I want to say something about that. During my questions, I'm working with someone right now, and she has set limits with me. She has set goals. This gentleman wants to spend a certain, am I not, never mind. Oh, sorry. So She has set goals with me. She only wants to spend a certain amount. She has free gifts to pick up. She calls me on Sunday when she goes to pick those up at each casino, so she doesn't, because you have to now put your card in to get your free gift. You can't just pick it up at the desk and leave. So she calls me, I stay on the phone with her, she picks up her gift and she leaves. She has set a recovery plan for her harm reduction so that she can, stay aligned with that. So I hope that helps her. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing. Just the goal really is responsible gambling, right? I don't want to say that any negative context towards gambling. If you can gamble responsible, my hats are off to you, right? I'm not for or against gambling. I just discovered it wasn't for me.
Yeah, and the meeting, that comes back to meeting people exactly where they're at as well, the harm reduction. Elizabeth mentioned it. Elizabeth mentioned it earlier. I forgot what I was going to say.
Giving money to a lot.
Yeah, giving paycheck management. Yeah.
Person with you who can handle your finances, that is a wonderful harm reduction method. Even actually, one thing I share with my support seekers is tossing something from your left and right hand when they have an urge, and that causes your dopamine levels to go from, from here, those chemicals to go from here between your right and left hemispheres, or change your body temperature, and that will cause it to go back here to regulate your body temperature. So those are just some of the harm reduction.
Yes. So coming from a background of substance use, I know that it goes hand in hand, right? Because most of the time I can pinpoint a return to use by how many times I get tagged with 98 people on a fish table page, right? So a lot of times when people enter into substance abuse treatment, they're just focused on the substance and they're not focused on that gambling behavior also. So what are some things we could do to kind of normalize that as an additional treatment inside the substance use community? And how do we bridge that gap between substance abuse recovery and gambling recovery also?
Great question. So we actually have out there at our table, or you can visit our websites and information, referral forms. So that, a brief screener, a very, very brief screener. When you go to primary care or even into a substance use facility, they're not asking you if you've gambled, more than you could afford, if you gambled your rent away this week. But if we start asking, just some, okay, but if, more screeners would lead to more awareness of the co-occurrence of substance use, alcohol use, sex addiction, all of these co-occurring disorders. But we have a link in our referral form that any clinician or treatment center can fill out and receive services in addition, we're not going to take them away from you, in addition to your treatment.
And that is one of our initiatives, is getting those screeners, involved in substance use intakes, mental health intakes, yeah. So.
Great question.
I want to thank you for presenting this. I remember the very first day that the scratch tickets came out in Virginia. It was the blackjack game. I won $50 on my first ticket. And it seemed to me everybody was winning that day. Now, I've heard it say that the house always wins. Is it baiting us when a new game comes out?
100%.
And then they have more winning tickets to start with, and then it just tapers off from there. And is that awareness being put out?
Well, we legally, I don't think can, say yes to that.
It's hard to have a definitive answer about it as well, but you know better than I do.
I
promise
can't
that.
say that, they do that. When I speak to my support seekers, and we have a question on our intake form. Did you or a loved one have an early big win? And so many answered yes. And I mean, we often compare it to other things, but yes, they win in the beginning. And many of our support seekers we have observed, they win, and then it's losing. So yes, you have caught on. Yes, that is a theme that we have seen.
And it's a lot. I mean, because of the how gambling addiction works on the pleasure center in your brain. It's a lot the same way. First time trying a drug, you chase that initial high. That is my case. I chased that initial high from that point on, and it was the same thing with gambling for me. Early big win, and then never could quite get back to that. For those first few wins, that feeling.
So I'd like to add something. The media system does offer persuasion in how they promote some of the games and gambling, right? We see a lot of the big wins and the big, are we seeing the other side of the spectrum? And so that's one of the things we're looking at and talking about at a national level is the persuasion of the media systems in the advertising.
Thank you.
So again, thank you for this. It's amazing. I had a question that's going to expand on some things you talked about earlier around the family support that's available. That wraparound support is so important, and I'm a social worker, so hey, we work with a lot of families. What kind of services do you all offer, and how do families get involved?
First off, families can also go through the exact same intake process and can be connected to clinical support, peer support, and all the other supports that we do provide just for that family. We also, or family members, loved ones, and we also offer family counseling as well, and family group, mutual aid support groups as well. And so there's a needs assessment for family as well, because it is bigger than just the gambling, and it does affect everybody. So that's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any available data that correlates support seekers recently released from incarceration?
Like as far as recidivism, or in the community, is. Okay.
We do not have any data available, but that is a great question. And if you want to reach out to us, we would be happy to answer that and look into it to the best of our ability. We have seen statistics where gambling, people with problem gambling tend to, what is that, 50%? 50%?
Recidivism?
No, they steal. 50% of problem gamblers commit an illegal act to support their gambling, but only 14% of those are reported because it's typically from a loved one. And so, but that is the best statistics I can give you on that right now. Please feel free to reach out to us.
And we might have statistics like VPGH. We might have statistics we can share with you on that.
DOC might as well, or something like that. And a lot of folks too, like they might pick up the gambling addiction from being incarcerated, because in my lived experience of being in jail is that there's not much of a better way to pass time than to play cards or gambling on sports. Spades, tonk. You can bet on raindrops going down the window to which one hits the sill fastest, stuff like that. And so a lot of folks come out of incarceration with a gambling habit.
And we know that organized crime, I think it is, I forget what it is, but there's some statistics that talk about the percentage of proceeds that contribute from gambling to organized crime. If I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere about 12% of gambling money funds organized crime.
Yes, mine is kind of twofold. One, I would like to know from each of you at what point, what was your, I call it skid row moment, where you realized it was controlling you and you weren't controlling it? And two, how did your family, mainly your mother, support you or not support you as you were going through your addiction and once you overcame your addiction?
So my story, everything kind of came crashing down all at once, all of my addictions all together, and mainly alcohol, and that always coincided with gambling. So I got sick enough to where I had to be hospitalized at VCU, and I didn't have, this was pre-pandemic, I didn't have access to apps like I would now if I wanted to gamble. So I really, it was, that rock bottom literally pulled me out of that world. I didn't have a choice, and I still don't have a choice anymore, and I've come to realize that. And that's where peer support has been so helpful, and support systems, coping mechanisms, goals have all been so helpful for me. Because I literally did not have a choice, and I knew if I went back to any one of them, all the rest of them would follow, because like I said earlier, it's progressive, it always gets worse, never better. And it was difficult for me to, not getting too deep into my story, but it was difficult for me to come to my parents, specifically my mom, about an issue like that. Because of how, I had I didn't come from a toxic, abusive, negative, I had a great upbringing. And I just felt so much shame and guilt, and I thought that everybody was going to be so disappointed in me. And that's how a lot of folks think. That's why I think peer support's important, being that liaison from active addiction into recovery. But my mom was very supportive. Once I finally got honest and she knew how serious I was, that I needed help, it was pretty immediate after that. So, thank you.
So, my mom has always been so supportive, over supportive, even I think when maybe she shouldn't have been. She's been my biggest supporter throughout my addiction and my recovery. I'm so grateful for her. For me, I always knew. There was a few years where I was in denial and, argued with you about my addiction. After that, for the next 10 or 15, I knew, and I figured that's how I would die. There was no hope for me. I couldn't get better. What changed for me was when I lost my daughter. I lost my daughter at the age of 18 to an overdose. She was an accidental overdose. She experimented with her friends with the wrong stuff, and she didn't wake up. So that sent me into a spiral for a little while, and led to more incarceration and treatment. And I was in a treatment center, and my therapist presented a question to me, like, and I would have had permission from everybody in my life to continue with my addiction, no questions, suffering that loss. My clinician said to me, "Are you going to let that be your daughter's legacy? Or are you going to change it?" And I saw saw the light, and it changed for me then. And I didn't touch another drug, and I haven't gambled since. And my gambling was a little different. I did it during my addiction with someone else's, my mother's, money, thousands, probably $100,000 on her credit card. When my clinician presented that question to me and challenged me to change my daughter's legacy, it gave me new meaning. The support for my mom was not there. She did not know what to do. She enabled the crap out of me. I don't even know if we're still allowed to say enabled, but she did. She wanted to be there for me, and she didn't have that support. And I wonder what things would have looked like had she had the support that we now offer families. I know she would have appreciated it But yes, I hope that helped answer your question a little bit.
First, thank you for sharing all your stories. It's just amazing, compassionate. I really enjoy hearing your stories and felt it. Question, you've mentioned a helpline. And I've been looking to see if you have a number. Do you have a number that we can have for this helpline?
1-800-GAMBLER.
Okay.
1-800-GAMBLER. I can't believe was it on the second slide?
Here it is. It's 888-532-3500, and that's our Virginia Partnership for Gaming and Health helpline. Or you can come by our table, grab some cards, call any of us directly, and we'll help you as well. You can visit the VPGH website. All the resources have the ability to open up a referral.
It's also on all flyers out there.
Ask me that question.
And one of the cool things about the VPGH is that when somebody calls 1-800-GAMBLER and it goes to a hotline or goes to a call center in Louisiana, it comes back to Virginia. If somebody calls 1-800-GAMBLER, it comes back to us, and that's where we're on that cutting edge of leading the charge with problem gambling support.
And that note, we do have flyers at our table with all that on.
And candy.
We like candy. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to each of you for, first of all, you opened my eyes about gambling addiction. I've always known about substance abuse addiction because I have a brother who's actively in his substance abuse. Matter of fact, he's overdosed 3 times in the past year. So we were so busy, dealing with that. But just to know that there, shedding the light on that for me personally was amazing. And I appreciate you. And I'm with this young lady right here. I see the passion and the compassion that you have because you've been there, done that. So for me personally, it just highlights the importance of peer support, having someone who has experienced what that person has experienced. So I want to say thank you to Matthew, Elizabeth, Lisa, and Sean. If we could give them a round of applause. And I want to be mindful of your time because I know you all have to transition at 10:15. But I do want to ask you all, because there's a new casino, big one, that's about to pop up south of here. And so there are people who are concerned about the potential for gambling addiction to even start or even be even worse in Virginia. So I just want to hear one or two of you all's thoughts on this, because it is coming. It's been approved and it's going to be huge. They're putting millions and millions of dollars into it. So do you feel like that's going to be problematic, or is it going to, bring more people to you all? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it potentially, I can't say for sure, but we are most certainly prepared for if it does get problematic, and at any level, and
we do
partner
speak with and work with the casinos. So the Hard Rock Casino, the Lisa
MGM.
work with
Rosie, the one
Caesars. They've done a great job collaborating with me, us. So
In
yes,
Norfolk.
they really put in some effort. They have their own problem gambling, responsible gambling initiatives in the casinos, and we work hard to ensure that we do those community outreaches. Part of those numbers were casino community outreaches.
Yeah, so that's good. Education, raising the risk of the awareness to the public of the risks associated with problem gambling. These things are extremely important, right? To better arm you with the facts about gambling so that you can make better informed decisions to help make our community a happier, healthier, and safer place for the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for joining us.
Enjoy your next session, everyone.